Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. Let's get straight to the docket. First, a top lawmaker is arrested and charged with racketeering charges. Second, arrests are made in the Florida fishing massacre. Third, a judge may release deposition transcripts regarding Miss Maxwell. Fourth, R. Kelly still wants to go home. Lori Vallow, Doomsday update, and DA says no cameras. A judge in Minnesota lifts the gag order on the George Floyd matters. The Chicago mayor says, pretty please. 8, parents in a case of a missing toddler are no longer cooperating with authorities. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. You're going to love this one. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for tuning in. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us live last night, as well as all of our Patreon members and the one-on-one conversations we had with them on our call-in line. As always, if you haven't already done so, we'd ask that you hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you receive notifications, and as always, leave us a comment about what we talk about here today. First on the docket, a top lawmaker in Ohio has been arrested and charged with federal racketeering charges. Now, this gentleman, and we'll use that term loosely, is the Ohio House Speaker, and his name is Larry Householder. He's 61, and obviously we will give him the presumption of innocence, as everyone is given on this show, unless and until they've pled guilty or were found guilty by a jury. Well, this is a huge racketeering scheme. And if anyone believes, after reading the 82-page complaint that has come down and was filed and released to the public, I'm not sure how you would say this is anything other than corruption. Householder led a group of individuals. 4 other people have actually been indicted, his close personal aides, a couple of lobbyists. There should be a lot of resignations coming forward from the Ohio House, but it also looks like the FBI did a great job on this. Now, the United States Attorney, usually when they go after a public official, they get the blessings from the anti-corruption unit, as well as possibly the Attorney General himself. Now, Larry Householder is a Republican, and he, if he is convicted, should go to prison for a long, long time. As you may recall, Sherman Silver, the former and now convicted felon and in custody Speaker of the House for New York, got 6.5 years just the other day based upon his corruption. And when you read this 82-page affidavit, Householder strong-armed people within his caucus. He had some $80 million running through organizations that he had set up to get these subsidies. He got these subsidies for a company that had nuclear facilities, and they wanted to have various subsidies. He got them a $1.6 billion subsidy through legislation that he railroaded through, and he pressured others to go along with it. It was all part of his plan. And if they had to pay him some $20 million after they just got $1.6 billion in subsidies, seems like a cheap price to pay. Not my words, those are his. That's right. The government has wiretaps. They have text messages. Not looking good for Mr. Householder. I would expect a resignation from him rather shortly. We have said this before, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a public official, you need to be held to a higher standard. And if you are making a profit, if you are profiteering from your position, you need to go to jail. These laws need to be completely reformed, where somebody is a state legislator and they have a little consulting business on the side and they get hired to consult companies that are going to have it. That's called lobbying. That's called being paid off, okay? You go and you be a public official. You conduct your business in open. You don't need to set up all these little PACs. You don't need to take consulting money. You don't need to take free trips. No, you pay your own way. You're a public servant. You can't afford to do that, then maybe you need to go be successful, get some money, and not start profiting and pilfering the public purse out there, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care what party they're from. Householder's a Republican. Silver was a Democrat. The reality of it is there should be more racketeering charges brought in just about every jurisdiction because these people are running criminal enterprises. Bottom line. And if they can't do it, they need to be resigned, and the people need to hold them accountable. It's been said that you get the government that you deserve. Well, hopefully, and I think the citizens of the great state of Ohio deserve better than this. Anyone who was close with Householder and was involved in this little scheme, we hope they resign as well. Well, that one got me all fired up. Next on the docket, as we discussed the other day, there was the massacre down in Florida where 3 gentlemen that were on a fishing trip literally killed. The sheriff had no suspects. Well, guess what? Through good old-fashioned police work, the police have cracked the case. Now, the sheriff down there in Polk County, Sheriff Grady Judd, shared that Tony T.J. Wiggins, 26, William Robert Wiggins, 21, and Mary Whitmore, 27, were all arrested after investigators pieced together evidence from the killing that occurred on Friday night. Both of the Wiggins brothers were interviewed, and apparently, according to the state, their statements were inconsistent. During an additional interview, Robert, 21, admitted to seeing Damien, who's one of the deceased individuals, in the dollar store on Friday evening while he stood behind Damien with his brother, TJ. When they left the store, TJ directed Robert to turn onto a particular road instead of going home. The 2 trucks occupied by the 3 victims passed Robert on that road, at which time TJ told Robert to make a U-turn and follow the trucks. Robert says that he stayed in the truck with Whitmore while TJ apparently got out and confronted Kevin Springfield, another one of the deceased individuals, punching him and yelling at him and accusing Kevin Springfield of stealing his truck. Robert then told the detectives that he watched TJ shoot all 3 victims. After the shooting, TJ asked Robert to help put Damien into the back of one of the trucks. After the killing, guess what they all did? That's right. They went to McDonald's and ordered 10 double cheeseburgers and 2 McChicken sandwiches. On Saturday morning, they took the trucks to clean off any of the mud that they had accumulated going to the fishing site. Neither Tony Wiggins nor Whitmore are cooperating any further with the detectives. The sheriff in this case, Sheriff Judd, said these individuals are pure evil. Evil in the flesh. This is a guy who can hurt you just because it's the right thing for him to do at that moment with all 3 of his brain cells. TJ's criminal history, and I'm a little skeptical of this, includes 230 felonies. Now, that may be 230 felony charges over the years, but apparently he has 15 felony convictions, 26 misdemeanors, and 2 trips to the state prison. Apparently, young TJ is a young career criminal who started at the age of 12. Sheriff Judge praised that the state attorney will seek the death penalty. According to the sheriff, he said, quote, he needs to receive a fair trial, the appropriate appeals, and then he needs to be executed. And you know what? Legally, we can't execute him like he did those 3 guys who were just trying to fish on Friday night. Nor would we suggest that the system be as barbaric as his conduct toward our 3 victims. You gotta like Sheriff Judge just laying it out there like he does. Apparently, the reason the officers were able to make a break in this particular case was they found a receipt from the Dollar General store at the crime scene. They went back to the Dollar General store, watched the videos, saw that the 3 deceased men were there, along with Wiggins. Tony Wiggins was positively identified as the person that was seen in the video at the dollar store. Apparently, Tony Wiggins has quite a reputation. Apparently, everybody knows is the prime suspect for anything that goes wrong, and that's easy to assume given his age and his prior criminal history. When deputies went to arrest the Wiggins and their girlfriend, Miss Whitmore, at their trailer, they found several rifles and handguns, and they were arrested as additional charges relating to possession of a weapon by a previous offender or a prohibited person, because you can't possess weapons if you are a convicted felon. Not looking good for Tony T.J. Wiggins. We will give them the presumption of innocence, but I may have to agree that this may be pure evil. I've only seen what I would account for as pure evil. Absolutely no redeemable qualities whatsoever, just a few times in my particular career. But to basically see a target of opportunity, knowing where these gentlemen were more than likely going to be, and to kill them and rob them, that is pure evil for no other reason than that. We'll continue to follow that just because, well, frankly, I kind of like this Sheriff Judd. Next on the docket, Miss Maxwell's testimony about her sex life could soon be released. That's right. A federal judge is considering making a public trove of previously sealed records from a 2015 lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now facing, obviously, these charges that she trafficked young girls for her former boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. These depositions come from a defamation lawsuit that was filed by one of the victims of Mr. Epstein, where Miss Maxwell had previously said that she was in fact lying. The depositions apparently contained very explicit questions regarding Miss Maxwell's sexual life, and she was forced to answer over objection with the basis that this would remain private and sealed. That's going to be what the decision that the court is going to have to weigh, is Miss Maxwell's expectation of privacy and what she believed when making these disclosures. Somehow, I think these matters are going to be released to the public. Miss Maxwell's attorneys in those civil cases are asking for gag orders and protective orders so that none of that information can be released other than to the attorneys involved in the cases. Next on the docket, R. Kelly still wants to go home. As you may recall, R. Kelly, accused of doing very bad things to girls, is charged in both New York and Chicago for the same charges of sexual exploitation. Mr. Kelly has tried just about every motion possible to try and get out because he says that he is diabetic and at risk of contracting the COVID virus. No ruling yet, but it will be denied like his previous motions. Keep trying, R. Kelly. Eventually something's going to work out. I don't think so in this particular case. Judges previously said he's a flight risk and there's no new information whatsoever. Get comfortable, Mr. Kelly. You will be in pre-trial confinement until your trial. And then you'll be in the Bureau of Prisons for the better part of your life, assuming the conviction is reached by the jury. We've got a long docket, so let's take a quick recess. That's right. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for your background subscription search service. All right? Let me tell you, you sign up, no risk trial. Once you sign up, you can search as many names as you want anonymously, which means no one's ever going to know that you're searching their background. Well, and that background search is going to include a report that's generated while you wait. You can look at it on your screen. You can have it emailed to you. And it is going to include phone numbers, email addresses, social media information, criminal records, bankruptcies, civil judgments, and it's going to include marital records and property records. These are the type of things you want to know about when you're dealing with individuals. We have received unsolicited responses from people who are saying, I signed up and I was found out that I was going to be or was in a relationship with somebody who was not being truthful with me about their past, that they had a criminal history. Specifically, one, they had a criminal history about harm to children. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of thing you need. Whether you're just curious or whether you want to know with whom you are dealing with. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for your background subscription today. You'll be happy and satisfied that you did. Next on the docket, Doomsday update. That's right. Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell believed today was the day, along with their followers, that the world was going to end. Now, we discussed this last night when we went live, and we had reports from Australia, who it was already the 22nd, and they were still there. And guess what? As of the time of this filming, we're still here. Somehow I think that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell got it wrong. And obviously they're given the presumption of innocence, but all these deceased people around them on some sort of bogus belief that children were possessed and that the world was coming to an end. Such a tragedy. Such a tragedy. Also, in the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell matters, the district attorney is filing motions with the court to reconsider the court's ruling granting cameras in the courtroom for the preliminary hearing. The concerns of the district attorney, Mr. Wood, are that it will further prejudice a right to a fair trial for the defense. Now, you might ask yourself, why is the defendant not asking for this particular hearing not to be televised? Well, you would think that's usually the case. Usually the defense attorney is asking for and wanting no publicity whatsoever, anything that's going to taint their clients from getting a fair trial. In this particular case, it's the prosecutor doing it who's actually looking out for Vallow and Daybell's rights to preserve the record. A district attorney, just like the judge, has a duty to keep the record clean. And since the attorneys, apparently for Vallow and Daybell, are more concerned about their 15 minutes of fame than protecting their clients' rights, the district attorney has stepped in to do that, to protect the record. So if there's a conviction, it's not an issue on appeal. You got to wonder where these defense attorneys are coming from and what they're doing. Because right now, I can't figure it out. I really can't. It's a good thing the defense attorneys in this particular case have the prosecutor looking out for them to make sure things are run smoothly and fairly. I'm still think the judge will allow cameras in the courtroom. I think overall a very good thing. That's the court's concern. They're into it, but I think the court also is interested in their 15 minutes of fame. As I said last night when we went live, she issued an order regarding the bond reduction from $1 million to $150,000 and listed all these items. Issued a formal order. Rarely happens in a misdemeanor case at all. It's usually written on a file. Standard terms and conditions, no big deal. I think this judge likes the cameras in there as well. We'll see how it goes when the preliminary hearing goes. We'll be there watching with you. Next on the docket, a Minnesota judge removed a gag order against the 4 Minneapolis police officers charged in the death of George Floyd, citing their inability to defend themselves against negative publicity. Judge Peter Cahill said he expects all attorneys involved in these cases to follow the legal rules of disclosure of information. The judge said he also would consider News Media Coalition's request to make body camera footage more widely available. The court had previously made viewing of the body cam a requirement that it be done in person. The news media said, no, we should be entitled to it and we should be able to play it as much as we want and in its entirety. The judge was limited to that. The prosecutors, of course, said the judge's restrictions were fine, but in the meantime, they continued to provide information which the defense attorneys could not respond to. Now understand, even if the defense is happy that the gag order is lifted, you still have limits on what you can tell the media when you're speaking with the press. And frankly, if your client is in the media like that, you have to be very careful what you say. My general rule of thumb is don't talk to the media about the case and say, we will try this case in the courtroom, not in the court of public opinion. Next on the docket, the mayor of Chicago says pretty please. Now, if you hadn't heard, 15 people were wounded in a shooting at a Chicago funeral home. That's right. Tuesday, there was a funeral going on for a man by the name of Donnie Weathersby, who was shot and killed on July 14th in a drive-by killing. Well, at his funeral, a car drove up and started shooting at the people attending the funeral. And the people at the funeral started shooting back at the car that was doing the firing. Some 15 people were wounded in the entire incident. The mayor of Chicago, who obviously has no control of what goes on there in the city whatsoever, and has one of the highest shooting and death rates in the entire country, simply says, please stop shooting. She calls this senseless violence, which in fact it is. Now, of course, Chicago restricts and limits law-abiding citizens from having firearms, so in theory, it should be one of the safest cities in the country. Apparently, though, that's not the case. It would appear that the non-law-abiding citizens didn't get the memorandum that if you have a criminal history, you cannot possess firearms, or if you're going to commit illegal acts, you shouldn't do it with a firearm. So now the mayor has said, pretty please. Now, if all sides come together, we anticipate perhaps a group hug as well. That ought to go really well, don't you think? Next on the docket, a couple of parents who are obviously not in the running for the Best Parents of the Year award. That's right. The parents of missing toddler Thaddeus Saran have stopped cooperating with the police. The 2-year-old disappeared from the 800 block of C Street in Madera on July 14th. The parents state that they put the child to bed around 10 p.m., and when they woke the following morning, he was in fact gone. Thaddeus was born prematurely and is just now learning to walk, but usually crawls around to move, apparently. He also uses a feeding tube, is nonverbal, and needs special care. The police announced Tuesday that the parents are no longer cooperating in their investigation. For obvious reasons, the police thought that maybe the parents' assistance would be helpful. You would also think that if your child was missing, you would do anything you could to help find them and be the first one out there leading the search party. But when you cooperate, you start to look like maybe you're hiding something, like maybe you were involved. So the parents of young Thaddeus Saran step up, and if you think you can't do that, we will absolutely defend your right to do so. Perhaps the police have accused you of doing something. At that point, you do have a right to an attorney, and an attorney is going to tell the police officers that they are no longer going to cooperate. I get that. I understand that. But we're talking about your 2-year-old child here, ladies and gentlemen. I doubt a special needs child that can barely walk is going to get up and walk out the door. And apparently there is no information regarding somebody breaking in and kidnapping the child. Doesn't look good for the parents of Thaddeus Saran. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Man, have we had some doozies lately. And Wendy Wine, a 51-year-old woman from the great state of Michigan, has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Now you may ask, how did Miss Wine go about wanting to kill her ex-husband who resides in Tennessee? That's right. She went to the internet. And she went to a website called Hire a Hitman. When you go to the website of Rent a Hitman, your point-and-click solution, they let you know that they're 100% HIPAA compliant with the Hitman Information Privacy and Protection Act of 1964. If you read closely, you'll also notice that, quote, due to contractual limitations, Rent a Hitman no longer affiliated with the CIA, SIS, Diners Club, Jeffrey Epstein, or the Illuminati. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is a satirical website. But Miss Wine took it for real. She submitted a request form asking to meet a hitman to take out her ex-husband. The police were notified based upon the request. A state trooper posing to be a hitman negotiated a deal with Miss Wine to knock off her husband for a mere $5,000. Needless to say, when she paid the money, she was arrested. Miss Wine, couple of lessons to be learned here, all right? First, Hire a Hitman, Rent a Hitman is a satirical website. Second, before you hire a hitman, you could have gone to CrimeTalkSearch.com, got your background subscription, and searched and identified if this hitman, who is actually a state trooper, was in fact who he says he was or wasn't in this particular case. And third, did you really think you'd get away with hiring a hitman in today's world? Miss Wine, You are our dumb criminal contestant of the week. And I'm telling you, you are running real close as the leader here for this week to win a Crime Talk mug sent to you. All you have to do is contact me. Congratulations, Miss Wine. We'll see if you hold your position by the end of the week. Thanks for watching. Want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch Crime Talk. We truly appreciate it. Thanks for our Patreons. Thanks for watching our live program every night that we do Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.